Hello, and welcome to Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. This is our map day, where we go into some depth on our topic, the first of 2 weeks, where we cover the material in our topic. Well, if you were around yesterday, you heard Victoria's announcement. If by chance you missed out, Victoria, why don't you catch us up on your good news?
The fantastic news is the book is here for sale. If you visit www.victoriacrowder.com, you can pick up your copy of the 566-page beast that walks you through how to set up your Zettelkasten as a fiction writer. It walks you through creating your note cards, different kinds of writing, long form, short form, you name it, it's in here. So that's my pitch for the book. With that said, let's talk about something that didn't make it into the book, and that's today's topic, which is research-driven writing. So as a writer, what does that mean? What does it mean to use research as a fiction writer? Well, it's just what it sounds like. It's taking things that you're fascinated with, things that you're just curious about, or exploring things that you love and you can't wait to read more about and explore, and transforming those into elements for fiction writing. I'm going to begin this week with primary resources. So what is a primary resource? Well, it's just what it sounds like. It's firsthand witness account of the things that you're writing about or the things you're describing. Well, let's think for a second. What have we all just completed 2 rounds of challenges doing? The experience collection. That, my friends, is a perfect example of primary research. You're literally witnessing observations from your daily life, things that you're thinking about or you're toying with that you're looking for in your life. We've just come off of Kathleen's addition to the challenge, which was the month of January, using the character traits to identify traits in your daily life. All of those sets of cards that you've now created are primary research. So your job as a writer is to take some time, leaf through those cards, and maybe pull out a handful that in some way contribute to a character. Perhaps they contribute to a scene or a setting, or maybe they're just something that you want to dig a little deeper into. Now, I'm not going to go into the digging in this session. That's a teaser for next time, because we'll talk about secondary research next time. That's when you do your exploring. But for this time, it's just the primary research. So how does that get used, and how do you identify it? Well, this is a sneak peek at an exercise that will be in my newsletter issue 1. It's take a piece of text and grab your red pen or perhaps your orange swipey marker and go through that piece of text. And what I want you to do is I want you to highlight everything that if you were writing that piece, you would have had to have looked up. So let's say there's a line about a particular city. If you've never been to that city and you have to describe it, highlight that. Because if you were that writer of that piece that you're reading, you'd have to go look that up. You'd either have to go to Google Maps to get the lay of the land. You might look on a quick internet search just to see what things look like. Is there a landmark you want to use? Is there something specific to that city that you want to reference? What's the climate like? All those kinds of details are things that you might have to look up. That's research-driven writing. So if you've been to a city, that's primary research, which is what we're talking about today. You personally witnessed it, so you can recall and kind of riff off of your memories in order to sketch out your own scene. So that's a terrific exercise to start training your writer's mind for how to identify research-driven primary research writing. Just swipe anything in a couple of paragraphs, pick up any novel that you've got nearby, open it up to a page, and just highlight anything you'd have to look up if you were writing that. Now, here's a cool thing. When you look back at that page, if that page is almost entirely highlighted, that, my friends, is leaning a little heavy into the stuff that needs to be researched. You might need to go back and do a little bit more making up of things to truly make it fiction. So that's a little trick that you can use, is spot check the writers that you love and see how many things on that page would I have had to look up to write that. And then you're starting to train your eye to when research is being used in fiction. It's a fantastic exercise if you can make yourself do it as you're reading those pieces. So, to recap, research-driven writing with primary sources is your own personal witnessing of those details, recording them like we did in the experience collection, and then recalling those and using them in order to create realistic scenes that resonate with your reader. So that's the challenge for this week, is pick up a book you love and check out a page and just see how much research that page required to do. It's a whole new world if you force yourself to do it and start training that eye. Kathleen?
Oh, that sounds so practical and doable, and yet, oh, how productive that could be. Thank you so much. I feel like we're reaching another level here in our fusion writing. We're approaching 2 years, and now your book is actually out. So many of our viewers, hopefully all of our viewers, will have a copy of your book to be able to reference, and you're taking off from there. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get mine. Okay, so we're talking about responsibility. That's another character trait. There's going to be a total of 28 character traits in the original set, and there's even a bonus secret 29th character trait, but I won't reveal that for several months yet. Okay, so we're talking about responsibility. Responsibility is a very interesting character trait because it is both one of the easiest character traits to write a story about, and yet one of the most difficult character traits to create an arc about that really is motivated by the character trait itself. Responsibility stories almost write themselves. Let's take a real simple case. A older gentleman, probably grandfather, uncle of a child, suddenly gets tasked with raising this child. He was a bachelor his whole life. He doesn't know anything about kids, not even sure he likes kids. And now here's this child that he's got to take care of. Okay, the story, what are you going to do? First of all, he's grumpy and he doesn't want to take care of the kid, and he's not blah, 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 blah. But of course, you write it and the kid wins his heart and his heart changes, of course. And then something horrible happens and somebody comes along and wants to take the child away from him that he was earlier just as glad to scoot away. Oh no, now this time that he's not going to let that person steal the child because he's convinced that person is evil. So there you go. The whole story it's just easy to write a story around the character trait of responsibility. It's a weight. You can feel the weight of it. You don't even have to we talk in the newsletter about cognitive load. It's there. People feel immediately the weight of responsibility. So many different stories. There's so many different ways you can play responsibility. An intern is suddenly stuck all alone in the office when a major piece of information comes in, and it has to be acted on instantly, and they don't feel that they've got the competency to do it, but the whole world has landed on them. It's up to them or nothing. Responsibility. It's just a dream entry point for you as a writer. And of course, we already know what responsibility means. Responsibility is something that if you don't take it on and if you don't handle it, bad things happen. So we talk about scale in the newsletter. What is the weight? What is the scale? Everybody knows what the scale of responsibilities is. What horrible thing will happen if your character doesn't follow through with their responsibilities? So this time around, this is the time, this first week, when we talk about what does responsibility mean? How does it differ from this character trait or that? There's no teasing out that you have to do for responsibility. You already understand it. And it's powerful in story, and it doesn't force anything on you as a writer. There are no forced consequences that come and that you have to understand at great depth to write a story about responsibility. This is your ideal beginner's opportunity. And with Victoria's book in your hands and with her first newsletter coming up, this will be the first opportunity that we have to totally combine everything in the fusion writing that we've been dreaming of for nearly 2 years. Victoria, what will you add?
And there you go, stealing my thunder again. That is exactly what I was going to say. Think about how these things fit together. Kathleen gave you the example of feeling the weight of using responsibility in a story. The reader can actually feel that and they understand what's being conveyed. Well, That's using emotion as a primary resource. That's the source of your research. So if you're collecting your experience collection, if you're writing from memory or from emotion, or particularly from the character traits, which are fantastic for this, that's the value of writing from the character traits, because you're incorporating the emotion, the feeling, the gravity, like Kathleen said, the scales, the balance of each individual trait. So as a primary resource, guys, you couldn't get any better than that, than the character traits. So, as we always say, do your investigations. Think about responsibility and think about, when have I been impacted by it? When have I turned away from it? Really dig deep and fill out some of those experience collection cards, or maybe some of those character trait cards, and really dive into your own experience of responsibility. And then next week, we'll start talking about what that looks like when you decide to go secondary research and dig into those things even deeper. I think we've got some pretty cool surprises in store for you. So yes, definitely pick up your copy of the book at victoriacrowder.com. When you buy your book, you have an option to do a trial of the newsletter. So you will get this newsletter issue that will complement everything that we've talked about. And then most importantly, come and join us. This is where the rubber meets the road, guys. As Kathleen said, we've been waiting for this for so long. Over in LiLLiPub.org, this is where we're going to get together and really start helping you use these things to get your words on the page. Kathleen, where do people find us?
Come on over to LiLLiPub.org. We're going to have a great conversation going about Victoria's new book. I am so excited, and many of us are going to be there, I'm sure, talking about how far are we in it? What are we doing in it? Are we doing the exercises? How are we shaping our Zettelkasten for our fiction writing? This is definitely the time that you want to be a member of LiLLiPub.org, especially right now while it's still only $8 a month. And there's also a secret of what you get with the book. What's that, Victoria?
Well, I think it could be a free 30-day trial to join the community and check things out with us.
Yep, you get a 1 month free trial of LiLLiPub when you buy Victoria's book. So be sure to do that. And we will see you next week to go into a little bit more depth in our topic. See you soon. Bye-bye.